There is a version of retirement that almost nobody talks about, not because it's rare, but because the people living it have stopped trying to explain it to anyone who hasn't seen it yet. It doesn't happen in Scottsdale. It doesn't happen in Boca Raton. It doesn't happen in any of the places that get written about in retirement planning magazines. It happens in towns with populations under 15,000, in states that don't make anybody's top 10 list, in houses that cost less than a new truck, on streets where neighbors still wave and nobody has heard of your old neighborhood and nobody cares. Into these towns, quietly and without announcement, American retirees are disappearing. They sold the house, they cashed out the equity, they did the math. And then they drove somewhere that most people have never thought about and discovered that the life they had been postponing was actually available. Right now, at a price they could actually afford. We found 10 of those towns. For each one, what it actually costs to live there, what you're giving up, and who it's the right fit for. Because not all of these are right for everyone. And the point is to find the one that's right for you. Subscribe and let's go. Entry 10, Oxford, Mississippi. Oxford sounds too good to be true. Then you go there and realize it has simply been undiscovered by the people who write about things. Home of Ole Miss, one of the best independent bookstores in the country. A town square with restaurants that would hold their own in Nashville. And a median home price between $180,000 and $260,000. Property taxes on a $200,000 home run about $100 per year. Mississippi's cost of living sits 15 to 17% below the national average. A couple on $3,200, combined Social Security covers housing, food, utilities, and transportation with room to spare. That is the actual arithmetic of Oxford. Summers are hot and humid. Healthcare infrastructure outside Oxford requires driving to Memphis 90 minutes north. Mississippi's public services reflect its tax base, which is the lowest in the country. You're getting cultural richness at bargain prices, but not Vermont's infrastructure. The retiree who wants intellectual and cultural life without urban cost. Walkable square, good food, good books, a porch, a yard, and a mortgage that stopped being a source of anxiety the day they signed the deed. Oxford yes or Mississippi no. Drop it below. The next town has been hiding in plain sight for decades, and the people there prefer it that way. Entry 9, Silver City in New Mexico. Silver City looks like a town that time forgot and then decided to keep forgetting on purpose. The people who live there consider that a compliment. Sitting at 5,900 feet in southwestern New Mexico, surrounded by 3.3 million acres of Gila National Forest, Silver City runs summers in the low 90s instead of 115. The downtown has galleries, independent restaurants, and a university, all without tipping into gentrification. Median home price around $185,000. New Mexico doesn't tax Social Security. A single retiree on $1,800 per month lives here without financial stress. A couple on $2,800 saves money every month. Population 10,000, nearest commercial airport in El Paso, 3 hours south. Specialty healthcare requires travel. This is not a town for the retiree who needs energy and density. It's a town for the one who wants mountains, silence, and a small community of people who made exactly the same choice. The outdoor retiree, the artist. Anyone who has said, someday I'll live somewhere with real sky and real wilderness, and now has the time to make that true at a price Sedona and Taos can't touch. Silver City hidden gem or too remote? Comment below. Next town proves you don't have to go west to disappear somewhere beautiful. Entry 8, Brevard, North Carolina. Brevard is what Asheville was before Asheville became the thing people talk about at dinner parties, except Brevard is cheaper and quieter. And there are 250 named waterfalls within 30 minutes. 35 miles southwest of Asheville in the Blue Ridge Mountains, surrounded by Pisgah National Forest on 3 sides. A genuine music scene anchored by the Brevard Music Center. A walkable downtown. A community of Northeastern and Midwestern retirees who found it before the media did and are quietly grateful. Median home price around $320,000. Significantly below Asheville's $450,000 for equivalent product. North Carolina doesn't tax Social Security. A couple entering with home equity can own here and live comfortably on retirement income, not as undiscovered as it was in 2019. Prices have risen, winters are mild but real. Healthcare is available locally and through Asheville's Mission Health System 35 miles away. If you missed the $220,000 window, you're now at $320,000. Still reasonable in context. Not a secret anymore, but not overrun either. The retiree who loves Asheville looked at the prices and needs an alternative that doesn't feel like settling. The hiker, the music lover, the person who wants real wilderness within walking distance of a real downtown. Brevard Blue Ridge, yes, or getting too expensive, drop it. 5 more towns, each one is a different version of the same discovery. Entry 7, Madison, Indiana. Madison, Indiana is the most beautiful small town in the Midwest that almost nobody outside the Midwest has heard of. The people of Madison consider this an arrangement they would prefer to maintain. On the Ohio River in southeastern Indiana, a town of 12,000 with a historic downtown listed on the National Register of Historic Places as one of the most intact 19th century commercial streetscapes in the country. Federal-style buildings from the 1840s, independent restaurants, a farmer's market, a riverfront that looks more like a European river town than an Indiana county seat. Median home price $140,000 to $165,000. Property taxes under $1,000 per year on a $160,000 home. A single retiree on $1,600 per month Social Security covers all costs. Louisville is 45 miles west, close enough for major healthcare and shopping, not convenient for daily needs. Pockets of Madison that are not the historic downtown tell a different economic story. The town is genuinely small, and the social world is sized accordingly. The architecture lover. The person who has walked Savannah or Charleston and thought, I want this beauty without those prices. Madison, Indiana is that answer. Madison, Indiana hidden gem, or Midwest too flat. Be honest. The next town is the one that surprises people most consistently. Entry 6, Guntersville, Alabama. Guntersville, Alabama is not on anybody's retirement radar. That is the single most important fact about it. A town of 8,000 on a peninsula in Lake Guntersville, a 69,000-acre reservoir on the Tennessee River, surrounded on 3 sides by water, one of the densest bald eagle concentrations in the southeast during winter, Sand Mountain to the east, a lake-oriented daily life that produces sunsets over the water from a $180,000 house. Waterfront property found in the $280,000 to $380,000 range, figures that don't exist in any coastal market. Alabama doesn't tax Social Security. Property taxes among the lowest in the nation. A couple on $2,800 combined can afford lakefront property and a boat payment simultaneously. That sentence is not available in most of America. Limited cultural infrastructure. Nearest city with significant amenities is Huntsville, 30 miles southeast. Summers are hot and humid. If you need a museum within walking distance, this is the wrong answer. The water person, the angler. Anyone who has dreamed of a house on a lake and assumed that dream required a lottery win. Guntersville Lake Life, yes, or Alabama Hard, no. Drop it. Next town has a river instead of a lake and a name you won't forget. Entry 5, Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Almost nobody who doesn't have family in northeastern Oklahoma knows Tahlequah exists. The people who do know it tend to stop telling others about it because they don't want it to change. Capital of the Cherokee Nation, the largest Native American tribe in the country, with Northeastern State University, a genuine downtown, and the Illinois River running alongside the town, one of the most pristine float rivers in the country, described consistently as one of the most beautiful river experiences in the American interior. The setting, Ozark foothills, dense hardwood forest, river valleys, looks nothing like the Oklahoma of the popular imagination. Median home price $145,000 to $170,000. Oklahoma doesn't tax Social Security. A single retiree on $500 per month covers all costs. A couple on $2,400 lives comfortably and still gives money away. Tulsa is 75 miles west. Real healthcare and shopping, not a quick trip. Severe thunderstorm seasons are real and require respect. Summers are hot. The economy is thin outside the university and tribal government. The nature retiree who wants a river. The person genuinely interested in Cherokee culture who wants to live within it. Anyone who has floated a river and thought, I want to be somewhere I can do this every weekend from May through October. Tahlequah River Life or Oklahoma surprised me. Drop it. 3 towns left. Each one closes a different chapter of this list. Entry 4, Beaufort, South Carolina. Beaufort is the most elegant town on this list. It is also, relative to what it offers, the most underpriced. Those 2 facts are in tension. And that tension is the entire reason it's here, on Port Royal Island in the South Carolina Lowcountry. Antebellum architecture, moss-draped live oaks, tidal marshes, a waterfront park where the light over the marsh at 6 p.m. is genuinely one of the most beautiful things you'll see on a given day. Forrest Gump was filmed here. Pat Conroy lived and wrote here. Population 14,000. Independent restaurants, an arts scene, a walkable historic downtown. Median home price $350,000 to $420,000. But Charleston, 1 hour north, starts at $600,000 for equivalent product. Hilton Head, 35 miles south, is a resort economy with resort prices. South Carolina doesn't tax Social Security. For the retiree entering with equity, the monthly cost structure here is sustainable in a setting that objectively should cost considerably more. Not cheap in absolute terms. The retiree who needs to buy at $160,000 is in the wrong town. Summers are hot and humid. Hurricane risk exists and insurance reflects it. Prices have risen as the town has been discovered. The window of dramatic undervaluation has narrowed. The retiree who has vacationed in Charleston, fallen in love with the Lowcountry, and needs an alternative that is still within reach without feeling like a compromise. Beaufort Lowcountry Dream, or too expensive for this list. Fair point either way. 2 towns left. Both are the most surprising on the entire list. Entry 3, Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. The town renamed itself after a 1950s radio game show. This tells you almost everything you need to know about the spirit of the place. On the Rio Grande in southern New Mexico. Population 6,000, elevation 4,200 feet, warm and dry without Phoenix's extremity. Natural geothermal hot springs feed the downtown bathhouses, some dating to the 1930s, where you can soak for $10 to $15. A genuine arts community drawn by cheap spaces and extraordinary light. Elephant Butte Lake, 5 minutes north. Median home price $130,000 to $160,000. Among the lowest on this list for a town with this combination of natural amenity, character, and climate. New Mexico doesn't tax Social Security. A single retiree on $2,400 per month covers all costs. A couple on $2,200 lives without financial anxiety and soaks in a hot spring twice a week for the price of a movie ticket. Genuinely small and genuinely remote. Albuquerque 2 hours north, El Paso 2 hours south. Limited healthcare on the ground. The town's revival is real but fragile. 6,000 people means the trajectory depends on whether the wave of retirees and artists keeps arriving. The summers are hot. The artist retiree, the person who wants the most interesting story at the lowest price. Anyone who has already given up on retirement looking like what retirement is supposed to look like, and wants a town with enough character to build a life that is entirely their own design. T or C is exactly my speed, or too eccentric, too remote. Both correct for different people. 1 town left, the most complete version of everything this list has been building toward. Entry 2, McMinnville, Oregon. McMinnville is 38 miles southwest of Portland, in the heart of Willamette Valley wine country, and it costs a fraction of what Portland costs. The wine is the same wine, the weather is the same weather, the price is not the same price. 35,000 people, a Pinot Noir wine culture that is not manufactured for tourists, but built around actual production that wine publications rank among the best in the country. A downtown 3rd Street corridor with independent restaurants that feel earned. The Oregon coast an hour west, the Cascades an hour east. Linfield University anchors an intellectual presence the town's size wouldn't otherwise support. Median home price around $390,000, the highest on this list, but Portland approaches $550,000 and Napa Valley starts at $900,000 for equivalent product. Oregon has no sales tax. Social Security is not taxed. A couple from a high-cost market entering with equity can buy here cash or near cash and run monthly costs sustainable on retirement income. In wine country, the Willamette Valley gets 40 to 45 inches of rain annually, mostly October through April. 6 months of gray sky is real and should be tested before committing. At $390,000 median, this is not accessible to the retiree who needs to come in at $160,000. It is on this list for the right buyer, dramatically underpriced relative to what it delivers. The retiree who has priced Napa, the Bay Area or Seattle transplant with equity looking for a soft landing that doesn't mean giving up food, culture, and natural beauty. The person trading price point, not quality of life. McMinnville Pacific Northwest Dream, or Rain Would Get Me. Honest answers only. One town left. Entry 1, Port Townsend, Washington. Port Townsend is the most complete version of the town this entire list has been building toward, and it is the proof that the life we've been describing is real, available, and still within reach, if you're willing to look where nobody else is looking. At the northeastern tip of the Olympic Peninsula, where the Strait of Juan de Fuca meets Puget Sound, looking across the water at the Cascades and, on clear days, Mount Baker, a Victorian seaport downtown preserved rather than demolished when the railroad chose a different route in the 1890s, which is why it looks the way it does today, like a sailing town frozen in amber and continuously occupied. A deep arts community, writers, painters, boat builders, the Wooden Boat Foundation. Olympic National Park 30 miles away, a daily ferry to Seattle, population 10,000, median home price around $480,000, the highest on this list. Seattle approaches $850,000. The San Juan Islands start above $700,000 for anything modest. Port Townsend is the most affordable access point to this specific quality of Pacific Northwest life that exists. Washington has no income tax, Social Security is not taxed. Real Pacific Northwest gray season, October through March. Isolated by land, ferry, or long drive to reach Seattle. Healthcare beyond primary care requires travel or the ferry. Prices have risen sharply. The $350,000 entry point is gone. You are now in a $480,000 plus market, and it requires entering with meaningful equity to make the monthly math work. The Pacific Northwest retiree who has been priced out of every other option that matches what Port Townsend offers. The boat person, the Victorian architecture person, the retiree whose quality of life standard is non-negotiable and who has looked at every other Pacific Northwest option and found this to be the last one still barely within reach. A retired maritime historian from Boston has been in Port Townsend for 4 years. He walks to the Wooden Boat Foundation 2 mornings a week. He walks home along the waterfront. The water is always there. The mountains are on the horizon when the weather permits. He bought at $465,000 with equity from his Boston condo. No mortgage, no financial anxiety. He says it took him 68 years and one very good real estate decision to find the exact life he wanted. He stopped trying to explain it to people who haven't been here. The town explains itself. 10 towns, 10 different versions of the same discovery. None of them are perfect. Oxford doesn't have mountains. Silver City doesn't have an airport. Port Townsend doesn't work for every budget. Beaufort isn't cheap in absolute numbers. Truth or Consequences is exactly as eccentric as it sounds. Every single one of them is asking you to trade something familiar for something you may not have known you were looking for. What they all offer in return is the thing that has become genuinely scarce in American retirement, a cost of living that matches or comes in under what Social Security actually pays, in a place where daily life is not a constant negotiation between what you want and what you can afford. If one of these resonated, or if you found yourself looking it up mid-video or thinking about someone who would disappear into it happily, that feeling is worth following. The towns are findable. The real estate is publicly listed. The only thing between the life we just described and the one you're currently planning is the willingness to look somewhere nobody else is looking. Drop your town in the comments. The one that hit closest and why. Subscribe if this was useful, and share it with someone making a retirement decision right now who hasn't heard of any of these places. The information is free. The towns are still there.